Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and in today's breakfast chat, I thought I would do a client lesson update because someone asked me about it. Someone had said, "Hey, are you still coaching? You haven't done a client lesson update," which I laughed at. Coaching is by far my full-time gig. Makes way more money than YouTube. I spend a lot more time doing it than YouTube. It's basically what I do. So I thought the question was kind of funny, but I'm like, well, let's go ahead and do a client lesson update. I haven't done one in a while. And this is something that a lot of coaches are going to deal with when you're looking at your different lifters. And I'm using this as just one example. This could be carried over to a lot of other lifts, but again, most people identify with the classic lifts in terms of overall strength. And that it is very, very rare for someone to just be really good at both the bench press and the deadlift. And we see that with a lot of powerlifting champions. People see the guys who are at the very top. These are the guys who have perfect leverage balances. They're usually a bit short for their body weight, right? So on and so forth. But people need to understand when we talk about leverages, what we mean is arm and leg lengths. So when you talk about leverages for a lift, people try to, again, make that into some magical term. Oh, that lift is just about leverages. Well, that's true of every lift, even a curl, right? In fact, I would say the barbell curl or dumbbell curl is probably the most leverage dependent lift you can possibly imagine, right? For obvious reasons. Arm lengths vary a lot in humans. Arm lengths vary a lot more than most other measurements. And it's completely dependent upon arm length. So that's true of any lift. So you can't say just the big three are dependent on leverages. But those leverages do matter on the big three. And the one that I find the largest disparity in is that bench press versus deadlift. Because at this point, I've coached a lot of people. I've been doing the coaching as a full-time thing for quite a while now. And because my average turnover for a client is 3 to 6 months. And I'm not saying I don't have people who are on longer. I have plenty of guys who've been on for up to 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years at this point. But those only represent a certain section of my clientele, right? I mean, I think at this point, clients I've had for a year and a half or longer only makes up like 7 of my clients. I have maybe 7 people. And a lot of people come in and out. I have clients who come on for 3 or 4 months and they leave for 3 or 4 months, come back and forth. So I have, at this point, just the people who I've picked up since I started doing this publicly and taking on clients, because I was doing a little coaching before that. It's been over 50 people. And I've noticed these trends. And it's usually that's our biggest disparity. People tend to be either quite good at the bench press or quite good at the deadlift. Very few people are good at both. And I mean, perfect examples. The guy who I put up in that training montage who did the Zercher that everyone was impressed with, right? He sumo deadlifts 560. Because I put up a 560 sumo deadlift in there. I've been coaching him for a year and a half. We just now, in the last month, finally broke a 300 bench. Now, he can do 315 board press off of a one board. He can do a 315 floor press. But we just now broke a 300 bench, and that was like a lifetime goal for him. And I think that would surprise a lot of people. They'll say, well, that seems kind of crazy. A guy who's deadlifting 560. He squats 460 right now. And that's to depth. They're like, he wasn't benching 300. No, when he did that Zercher, and he did the sumo that was in that video, he had not benched 300 yet. And he trains hard, and he's got good genetics, right? He's just got long arms. Take Mikey, for example. Since I've had him, and you guys have watched the vlogs, I've taken him from a 295 bench up to a 340 bench, right? His bench has come along well. We're only in the mid 400s on his deadlift. He can squat almost as much as he deadlifts. So our goal for him is to get him to a 500 deadlift. It's our big priority. But again, you would look at that and most people would say, what? You should be able to reach a 500 deadlift way before a 315 bench, let alone a 340. He's got shorter arms. Notice how big his arms look though too. Matters. Shorter arms make your arms look real big. But because of arm length differences, right? And the people who we see who are good at both tend to be guys who are a little shorter with medium-sized arm length, right? So this will be the thing that throws a lot of people off, because they'll look at their lifts and go, man, my bench is just going up so slow, or my deadlift is going up really slow, but my bench is going up quick. It comes down to individual leverages. And as a coach, you have to be prepared for that. And that's one of the problems we have when I put out stuff like a Big 5 strength standard or any strength standard for a combination of lifts. Well, some people are going to be more favorable to one lift versus the other. And I can give a set of standards like that. And if you hit all of those, and if you can do all those, you're going to be a pretty jacked guy overall, right? You're going to look pretty big. You're going to look pretty jacked walking down the street. But what you may find is that due to leverages, you may pass one of those by a large margin while you're still lagging at another. So again, standards like that are good as an overall balance, but people need to understand that assumes probably perfectly average arm, leg lengths, and heights and everything, right? If all your ratios are perfect, it's going to be easier to hit all of those. But if your arms are literally 1 inch longer or shorter on average for your height, 1 inch, you're actually going to see it skew towards the bench versus the deadlift more back and forth, depending upon if your arms are 1 inch longer or shorter, right? And I have long arms. Makes benching harder for me. That makes deadlifting easier for me. You'll see other people who are here on YouTube that have shorter arms, right? And they can bench a lot. Benching just becomes more efficient for them. So as a coach, it's something you're going to need to be aware of. You can't take 10 different lifters, and even if they're all average height, and you can't expect them over time to have a balance between bench and deadlift, because those lifts depend on arm length so much, right? They depend a lot. And what you'll usually find, though, is that even taller guys really excel at the deadlift faster. Again, you can use Joe Fazier, who is a client of mine, has been for quite a while, right? He struggles with the bench. He's a tall guy. He's over 6 foot tall, long arms. But he got to a decent deadlift much, much quicker, right? His deadlift has way outpaced his bench press. He's a guy who struggles to build his chest, has long arms. So just something that coaches need to be aware of, and it's something that all of you need to think about with your stuff too. So a lot of times people will get upset because they're really good at one lift and not another, and they wonder why that is, and it's like, oh, is a muscle issue? No, it probably isn't. Unless you have undertrained the muscles involved. And if you need to do more work for all the primary movers, that could be why. But you are going to, on a balanced program, you're going to see a large difference in the ratios on those lifts on different people just due to arm and leg length differences. And again, the bench and the deadlift are two that it's really noticeable on, and it stands out for me a lot as a coach. And it's the other thing is that I'll find that people with certain leverages on the deadlift, their deadlift will go up really fast, right? They'll hit advanced deadlift numbers and they're still intermediates on their bench and squat. That's really common. And I've had several of those guys also, because you'll see again guys like Mike and Doug, my guys who can bench a lot, who have shorter arms, and their deadlifts are quite a bit of a fight for them, right? They fight with the deadlift, and I have a lot of guys on the other extreme, those longer arm guys. I have guys who reach, a 470, 480 deadlift, who still their squat and bench is a long way from being at a respectable level. Pretty common. See a 450 up to a 500 deadlift in longer arm guys who haven't hit big numbers on the other stuff. And you'll see that in someone like Kaylor Woolham, who is overall strong, but has a ridiculous deadlift that other people just can't touch. The guy out deadlifts people even in heavier weight classes than him. Out deadlifts record holders in heavier weight classes than him. But look at the length of that guy's arms. So it matters. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.